والسلام أن الأمانة نزلت في جذر قلوب الرجال. That al-amana, of trust, came down into the root of the hearts of men. That means in the innate of the person, right? He knows what amana means. Every human being, they like honesty, they like truthfulness, they like to fulfill the trust. Doesn't mean that they will do it, but they like that. They see it as a good thing. This is, where does it come from? This is all in all human beings. No human being would find them love so much the opposite. This is something that human beings, they have in them. This is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, put that in the root of the heart of every human being. ثم علموا من القرآن. Then they learn from the Quran. ثم علموا من السنة. Then they get to know from the Sunnah. So the Prophet ﷺ said that. وحدثنا عن رفعها. And the Prophet ﷺ informed us that it will be lifted. Right? So the amana or the goodness that every human being has a share of this, it becomes definitely with the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then in the right way. And he said that it will be lifted. He said the man would sleep النوم, asleep, فتقبض الأمانة من قلبه. That means the amana, the trust, will be taken out of his heart. فيظل أثرها مثل آثر الوقت. Then what's going to happen? A very small trace of it will be in the heart, like when the fire is extinguished, it leaves a dark spot. Then he would sleep another sleep, and it will be taken out. فيبقى أثرها. Then another trace will be left with, which is najal, which is something that the hands of a person, when he works hard and it becomes rough, right? This is would be the effect or the explanation of how it would look in the heart. When a person is burned, and when you have a small portion of your skin is burned, and it becomes like a blister, and it, as he says, كجمر دحرجته على رجلك فنفض فتراه منتبرا. It's like when you have a hot coal that falls into your leg, and it would swell, right? And it has this blister as a result of this burn. And there's nothing in it, it's empty. فَيُصْبِحُ النَّاسِ يَتَبَعُونَ. Then the Prophet ﷺ, meaning that this amana will be taken out of the hearts of the people, and only very small trace of it, which doesn't mean much, will be still left. And then he said, and still people would buy and sell. فَلَا يَكَادُ أَحَدٌ يُؤَدِّي الْأَمَانَ. To the extent of which that you rarely would find someone be trustworthy in buying and selling transactions. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, and to the people would say, there is such and such person, he's a trustworthy, in which this was supposed to be the norm of the human beings. Human beings, all of them supposed to be trustworthy. But the trustworthiness will be taken away from people, to the extent of which people would say, I know this, there's a store owner, you can trust him, go to him. This is something that is normal in our life now, right? No, this is an exception. It's supposed to be the norm of every human being, that they have amana in them, they have trust in them. But this was taken away from the hearts, and you would find it rarely. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, and it will be said about a man, مَا أَعْقَلَهُ وَمَا أَضْرَفَهُ وَمَا أَجْلَدَهُ وَمَا فِي قَلْبِهِ مِثْقَالُ حَبَّةِ خَرْدَلٍ مِنْ إِيمَانٍ. He said, the people would say about a man, how wise he is, how humorous he is, and how tough and strong he is, and there's not even the weight of a mustard seed of iman in his heart. People would praise one another, not based on the iman, based on foolishness or things of this dunya, which is of course something that is very clear in this life. And then Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, he said, and these things were very strange to the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. This was going to happen. People will be like this. They're not trustworthy in buying and selling. This is one of the things, is when the Prophet ﷺ, and I mentioned that before, when he was sent to get a taste of what it means to say about the Prophet ﷺ that he was as-sadiq al-amin, he was the trustworthy, the truthful one, the trustworthy, right? If that is in the environment of all liars or evil ones, definitely someone that is truthful and trustworthy will stick out very clear, right? This was not the case for the Prophet ﷺ. The environment of the people at the time, even in Jahiliyyah and Kufr, but they would never lie. Lying is something that they would never even dare to do it. And we said that when the hadith of Sufyan, Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu, before he was a Muslim, with Herakl. That Herakl asked him questions, the king of the Romans, right? He asked him questions, and he was a disbeliever, Abu Sufyan, and he could have lied to make the Prophet ﷺ look very bad, but he said, if there was anything or mean for me to lie, I would have lied. But he would never ever say. So the people of Quraysh and the Arab and so on, that when the Prophet ﷺ was sent, they were all trustworthy and they don't lie. So for the Prophet ﷺ to be among them and to be called as-Sadiq al-Amin, his truthfulness and his amana has to be something that is unimaginable. You understand? So which is even more miraculous. So Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, when the Prophet ﷺ said that, which is a very strange thing, a person to be praised and so on, and he has no iman in his heart, praised of what? The Prophet Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, he said, وَلَقَدْ أَتَى عَلَيَّ زَمَانٌ وَمَا أُبَالِي أَيُّكُمْ بَايَعْتُ. A time came to me and I didn't care who I'm buying or selling to, because everybody's honest. He goes to anyone, he buys from him, take from him, everybody is honest and truthful. If he was a Muslim, رَدَّهُ عَلَيَّ Islam, if he's a Muslim, his Islam was enough for me. That Islam made him an honest and trustworthy person. وَإِنْ كَانَ نَصْرَانِيًا, and if he was a Christian, رَدَّهُ عَلَيَّ سَاعِيًا, the one that is his boss will take care of him if he's lying. That means how Muslims, they were trustworthy and honest to that extent that for him to be a Muslim is enough. That he had, because it goes as muqtadayat al-Islam, which means the necessities of Islam. A Muslim, that necessitates what that he is trustworthy. If he's not trustworthy, that means there is an issue about his Islam. And then he said, فَأَمَّا الْيَوْمِ, as for now, and this was after the Prophet ﷺ, فَمَا كُنْتُ أُبَايَعْ إِلَّا فُلَانَ وَفُلَانَ, I would only buy and sell with such and such and such and such. So that means things changed after the Prophet ﷺ to that extent. One of these signs, this hadith is in Bazzar al-Tabarani, and Sheikh Al-Bani rahimahullah authenticated it. He said alayhi salatu wasalam, إِنَّهَا سَتُفْتَحُ عَلَيْكُمُ الدُّنْيا. The dunya will be, tuftah means opened, right? And there's not really a very precise word to this word when you talk about Fath Makkah, for example. Right? How would you translate Fath Makkah? Fath means opened. Makkah was opened, right? But they don't use that in the English language, right? They say the conquest of Makkah. Conquest gives you this, there was some evil people who came and conquered Makkah. No, it's Fath. Fath means liberation. It means all kinds of spaciousness and goodness and everything like that, right? So the battles that the Prophet ﷺ fought with the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and after the Prophet ﷺ, it's called futuhat, right? They say when somebody has a fath, that means he has some form of, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed on him a great, inspired him with an idea. It's called fath. So this is what they call these battles and so on. So سَتُفْتَحُ عَلَيْكُمُ الدُّنْيا, that means this dunya, this world will be given to you with abundance and spaciousness. حَتَّى تُنَجِّدُ بِيُوتَكُمْ كَمَا تُنَجَّدُ الْكَعْبَةِ, till you would cover your houses like the Kaaba is, meaning how the Kaaba is covered with cloth. Your homes will be all forms of cloth in it, right? And this is what's happening, right? You enter the homes, compare this to how it was at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. There was no such a thing as how things are carpets now. Everything is carpet, and the floor and the walls, and the luxurious life that we live nowadays. So this is one of the signs of the hour, that people will be in that level of luxury. But then the sad part, which is a warning, it does not mean that these things are haram. Extravagance is not good. But if it's the norm, it's not haram, but it brings with it a heavy responsibility. And that is, it has to show in our obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we choose to live such a life, that means it has to show in our obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means we have to make this gratefulness and this shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that your houses will be like the cloth of the Kaaba all over, and you make it cushy and how it is comfortable. They said to the Prophet ﷺ, وَنَحْنُ عَلَى دِينِنَا الْيَوْمِ, and we will still be on our religion when this is the case. So they said, وَأَنْتُمْ عَلَى دِينِكُمُ الْيَوْمِ. And he said, and you are on your religion today. He said, فَنَحْنُ يَوْمَئِذٍ خَيْرٌ أَمْ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ. They said to the Prophet ﷺ, are we better now on our deen, or then we will be better? He said, بَلْ أَنْتُمُ الْيَوْمَ خَيْرٌ. He said, today you are on goodness. So that means these things will change you. These things will change the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, and it did change. The attachment to the luxurious life that we live in. Again, it doesn't mean as an action that we would abandon all of this and live in a tent and sleep on the ground. No, and nobody ever said that. And the Prophet ﷺ said that you're still on the deen, but you're not as they are. So these things can easily pollute one's heart. So a person has to do what? Has to be humble and not extravagant, and not to follow the desires in everything that a person wants, which is something that a person is put in this trap of this life like this, so materialistic, that everything, a person is not satisfied with anything unless it's the perfect and so on. And of course to remember those who are poor, those who are needy. I just saw a brother send me a link of a woman, and I've seen that with my own eyes, and maybe some of you saw the same thing. A woman in Syria, she is searching in the garbage to look for bread. And when they approached her and she was weeping, I don't have bread for my children. And she, coming out with her hijab, and she's looking for bread in the garbage, right? And we see how much food we waste and how much is luxury. What is that? Should we then throw our food away? No. But where is then our compassion and dua and helping others and being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our actions? And that's why the sins for someone in that situation is not the same as the sin for someone that is in luxury life. That means we have to be extremely careful. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us means of ease, comes with it the heavy responsibility. So definitely, where is the Quran in our life, and the dedication and the ibadah and so on? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. So this is a hadith. Then the Prophet ﷺ, another hadith, he said, alayhi salatu wassalam, this is also an authentic hadith. He said, alayhi salatu wassalam, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he said, نظر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى الجوع في وجوه أصحابه. Prophet ﷺ looked at the hunger in the faces of his companions. You can imagine, I don't know if any one of us saw hunger in the face of others. You see someone hungry. Can you see someone hungry? It has to be not any hunger, right? You see his face is hungry, he looks hungry, right? So he saw the hunger in their faces. So he said to them, أبشروا, have glad tidings, have the good news. فإنه سيأتي عليكم زمان يغدى على أحدكم بالقصعة من الثريد ويراح عليه بمثلها. That get glad tidings, don't worry. And this was to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, that a time will come to you with the qas'a, with the big plate, with a tharid, meat and bread, right? And it goes back and forth, comes and goes, right? That means you'll have abundance of food. So they said, Ya Rasulullah, see the concern, Ya Rasulullah, نحن يومئذ خير, O Prophet of Allah, we will be then good. He said, بل أنتم اليوم خير منكم يومئذ. But now you are better than later. So again, this is not something that a person would choose to make himself hungry and to reject the ni'mah and the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But again, it shows that if it happens that a person is hungry, right, maybe this is what is better for him. And that's why al-ju' or hunger, that's why we fast, right? But hunger in itself raised the Sahaba radiallahu anhum to be the best generation ever brought to mankind. And that's why, which is something, there is a fault in our upbringing of our children. As they say, the Salaf, they say, sometimes you raise your children that sometimes they can only eat bread. Not every day they will only eat bread, but what is the food today? Bread, right? They will scream and cry and this and that. But if, again, it's not to make it difficult for them. We have to weigh and balance what is the benefits and the losses of things, and not for them to look down and see how Muslims are so vicious. We're not saying that. But for a person to be used to whatever situation he's in. And that's why things can help, fasting Mondays and Thursdays and so on. But anyway, it shows that how the Prophet ﷺ at these times would give him the glad tidings and so on. And there are many hadiths with that meaning. Also the hadith of Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu, I won't mention the whole hadith in detail, when a lot of money came from Al-Bahrain, and the people they were waiting came at Fajr Salah. Many people came at Fajr Salah when they heard that the money came. So the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ was there. Didn't mean that they would pray at home otherwise, no, but they would pray in their local masajid and so on. But they came to the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ that particular day because they heard that the money came from Al-Bahrain. So the Prophet ﷺ, لما انصرف, and this hadith has beautiful meanings to it, but maybe some other time we can discuss it. The specific words that are mentioned in this. The Prophet ﷺ, when he left after Salat al-Fajr, he didn't say anything. They all came and he knows that what they're here for. So he prayed Fajr alayhi salatu wasalam, ta'arradu la. They start, ta'arradu meaning they presented themselves to the Prophet ﷺ. They didn't say anything. Say, Prophet of Allah, where's the money? But they looked to him alayhi salatu wasalam because he was leaving. So they're all, in front of him. So the Prophet ﷺ smiled, right? And when he saw him like this, and he said, أظنكم سمعتم أن أبا عبيدة قادم بشيء. I think you heard that Abu Ubaidah came with something from Al-Bahrain. They said, yes, O Messenger of Allah. And these people were not greedy. Right? These people, as you heard, hunger and so on, these people came with this and still with the manners and the etiquettes. So the Prophet ﷺ said to them, فَأَبْشِرُوا وَأَمِّلُوا مَا يَسُرُّكُمْ. Have the good news, and things will be, what makes you happy will happen, inshallah ta'ala. And then he told them, فَوَاللَّهِ مَا الْفَقْرِ أَخْشَى عَلَيْكُمْ. Wallahi, it is not poverty that I'm fearful of for you. وَلَكِنِّي أَخْشَى أَن تُبْسَطَ عَلَيْكُمُ الدُّنْيَا. I'm afraid that the dunya will be given to you in abundance. كَمَا بُسِطَتْ عَلَى مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ. The same way it was given to those who before you. فَتَنَافَسُوهَا كَمَا تَنَافَسُوهَا. So they start competing with one another over this dunya, over this life, with the materialistic world. وَتُهْلِكَكُمْ كَمَا أَهْلَكَتْهُمْ. And as a result of that, destroy you as it destroyed them. Right, which becomes the concern. Is this dunya and the money and the food and where is that from the life of the Prophet ﷺ? Our concern is the deen of Islam. And the dunya is nothing but a mean to establish the deen in our life. But to have the means and the goals are totally switched and upside down, this is definitely, as we hear, and again this is one of the signs of the hour, and this should be a warning that life is really not that of a valuable thing, that death is coming close and a person should not regret when the moment of death comes. From these signs of the hour, the Prophet ﷺ, لا تقوم الساعة حتى تقتتل فئتان عظيمتان. The hour would not be established unless two huge armies would fight with each other. يكون بينهما مقتلة عظيمة دعوتهما واحدة. It will be a big fight between them. Their call is the same. Their call is the same. Until حتى يبعث دجالون كذابون. Until 30 قريب من 30. كلهم يزعم أنه رسول الله. And close to 30 people will claim to be the messenger of Allah, as we said before. And وحتى يقبض العلم. Until knowledge is taken away. وتكثر الزلازل. And earthquakes will be a lot. ويتقارب الزمان. And time will be very shrunk, right? You know what happened to last week. Either physically it will be shrunk, or as we would feel, right? There's no barakah, there's no blessings in time. Time passes very quickly. People don't feel it. What happened to the past years and so on. وتظهر الفتن. And fitan would be, would be raised and shown. Will be a lot. وَيَكْثُرْ الْهَرْجِ وَهُوَ الْقَتْلِ. And al-harj will be a lot, which is killing. And in another narration, to the extent of which the qatil, the killer, doesn't know why he's killing. And the maqtul doesn't know why he's being killed. Just killing. He hit a button and millions are killed, or thousands. He doesn't know why. He's just playing like video games. Very easy. And very easy people with matters of blood. Which is a very, important thing. So a lot of killing. حتى يكثر فيكم المال. Until al-mal or money becomes so much in abundance among you. and which is true. You know, the poor people nowadays, they have a lot of money compared again. I'm not talking about the level of life, but even the level of life is different, and our standards are different, and our concepts of poverty is totally different. But there will be a lot of money as money itself, physical, and that's why you find, you know, those who are millionaires or billionaires, what do they do with this money? Right? It's a lot of money. فيفيض حتى يهم رب المال من يقبل صدقته. That it will be so much that the owner of the money will be so concerned, who's going to take his sadaqah? Where can I give my sadaqah to? I can't find anybody to give him my sadaqah, my charity. And he would even present it to the one to take his sadaqah, and he would say, لا أرب لي به. I don't need it, I have enough. And also one of these signs, وحتى يتطاول الناس في البنيان. People will compete with one another with buildings, right? Who will have the record. And another narration, حتى ترى الشاة العراة رعاة الإبل يتطاولون في البنيان. Till you see the naked ones, they didn't used to have much clothing, shepherds, right, barefooted, competing with one another with tall buildings. This is very obvious in the Gulf countries and so on. And you would see that, and this is again, is not necessarily something that is haram, it depends on how things are being used, right? And you see the pictures, for example, 50 years from now and how things are today. So this is one of the signs of the hour. And till a man would pass by the grave of another man, and he would say, يا ليتني مكانه. Time would come because of the too much fitan, that a person would pass by the grave and say, I wish I was in his place. Because he cannot guarantee to save his religion because of the fitan and so on. And وحتى تطلع الشمس من مغربها, until the sun rises from the west. So these are major signs with minor signs that are being mentioned, and that's why the early generations of Islam, they didn't used to make this classification, right? It's all signs of the hour. And of course, the sun rises from the west, no repentance anymore. This is a major sign. Physical changes, and that's what the major signs are. Physical changes to the world, that life won't be as normal as we know today. فإذا طلعت ورآها الناس يعني آمنوا أجمعوا. If the sun rises from the west one morning, then everybody becomes believer. This is because this is an obvious sign. This is when the Prophet ﷺ, he said, this one لا ينفع نفسا إيمانها لم تكن آمنت من قبل أو كسبت في إيمانها خيرا. Which is the end Surah Al-An'am, that on that day, whenever that happens, no soul would benefit, its iman would never benefit it on that day, or the one that want to earn to their iman, which is an evidence that al-iman increases and decreases. So someone is a disbeliever, when the sun rises from the west, his belief would not benefit him. It's too late. Repentance is not accepted. And also for those who, believers, once the sun rises from the west, no good deed will benefit them. It's finished. So this is one of the major signs of the hour. وَلَا تَقُومَنَّ السَّاعَةِ, and the hour will be established. Again, now we're mixing the signs, but this is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The hour would establish when two men, they hang their clothes, on a rope or something. فَلَا يَتَبَايَعَانِهِ وَلَا يَطْوِيَانِهِ. They hang it to sell it, but they won't even have the time to fold it and to sell it. That means it's going to happen all of a sudden like this. It's not like there is something happening, so people start panicking and take their clothes. No, it will happen in such a way that a person put some clothing to be sold, and he won't have the time to fold it. Meaning the hour, when it happens on these people, on the time, the hour will be established on them. And the other examples where the Prophet ﷺ said a man would be working on his hawd, or in his basin that he feeds the animals, or they drink from it, and he's doing it with the teen or with the mud, right? While he's doing it, he won't be able to finish it when the hour comes, right? And also, وَلَا تَقُومَنَّ السَّاعَةِ قَدْ رَفَعَ أَكْلَتَهُ إِلَى فِيهِ فَلَا طَعْمَهُ. And also a person will be eating, and before he get the morsel of food off the plate, before he get it into his mouth, the hour will be established. That means this is how it's all of a sudden. It will take people in surprise, those who are living at that time. And we would see in the hadith that those who the hour will be established on them are the worst people ever. They will be all disbelievers. This way at the end, after Isa alayhi salam comes down and Masih al-Dajjal and all of these things, all of this will be finished, right? And the believers will be established and so on. All of that wind will come and take the lives of the believers in an easy way. And then only the disbelievers will be on earth, and on them the day of judgment will occur. The Prophet ﷺ, which is another minor sign that it's happened and still happening, he said عليه الصلاة والسلام, قد أوشك العلم أن يذهب. Very close, the knowledge will go away. ويظهر الجهل, and jahl, ignorance, will prevail. The norm is ignorance, and the exception is the knowledge. And the knowledge, what is the knowledge? العلم قال الله قال رسوله قال الصحابة. The ilm is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, what the Prophet ﷺ said, what the companions رضي الله عنهم said. حتى يضرب الرجل أمه بالسيف من الجهل. To the extent of which a man will hit his mother with the sword out of ignorance. This is how ignorant people will reach. Ignorance, not like he doesn't know if it's halal or haram, but this is how ignorant people would reach. A person would, do something like that to his mother. Also the Prophet ﷺ said, إن بين يدي الساعة أياما يرفع فيها العلم وينزل فيها الجهل. Days before the day of judgment would come, in which the ilm will be, the knowledge will be lifted, and jahl, ignorance, will come down. وَيَكْثُرُ فِيهَا الْهَرْجُ وَالْهَرْجُ الْقَتْلِ, and a lot of killing will happen. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned in another hadith that Allah does not take the ilm or the knowledge from the hearts of the people. He takes it by the death of the ulama. حتى إذا لم يبقى عالم اتخذ الناس رؤوسا جهالا فأفتوا بغير علم فضلوا وضلوا. Till when there is no alim for people to seek knowledge from or to ask him, they would take ignorant heads and they would give them fatwa accordingly, ignorant ones, and they would lead them astray. So this is definitely the worst fitna. Why? Because what is fitna? Is it killing and less money? This is not the real fitna. The real fitna is a person doesn't know how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He lives his life like cattle, basically. Doesn't know what is halal, what is haram. People get married, how do they get married, and how they divorce, and how they buy and sell. They become like cattle if they don't know what is permissible and what's not permissible, and that's why they need of the knowledge of the deen. So an implication to this is for a person to work, to learn the deen, so that he can benefit others and spread the truth among people. Yeah, what time is it? 35. Also the Prophet ﷺ, sometimes people would come to him and ask him about the hour. متى الساعة? When is the hour? So, and this is in more than one narration, one of which, an Arabi, a Bedouin, came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, متى الساعة? When the Prophet ﷺ was speaking to the people, يحدث القوم, right? And the Bedouins, they didn't know the etiquettes of things. They're not with the Prophet ﷺ to be taught the etiquettes of blessings. And this is one of the things that we need to learn. The etiquettes of being present in the gathering of knowledge when the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is being recited and so on. So this Bedouin then, he came and he interrupted the Prophet ﷺ and he said, ماذا الساعة? When is the hour? The Prophet ﷺ continued to speak to the people, did not answer this man. And then some of the people, they said, سمع مقال فكره مقال. He heard them, but he didn't like what he said. They start, thinking why the Prophet ﷺ did not respond to this Bedouin. And some of them said, no, maybe he didn't hear what the Bedouin said. Till the Prophet ﷺ finished his hadith, his talk, and then he said, أين أراه السائل عن الساعة? Where is the questioner that asked about the hour? So he said, ها أنا رسول الله, here I am, O Messenger of Allah. So the Prophet ﷺ told him, فإذا ضيعت الأمانة فانتظر الساعة. If the amana is lost, if trust is lost, then wait for the hour. There is no trust, then wait for the hour. So he asked, كيف إضاعتها? How it's lost? How the amana, the trust is to be lost? He said, إذا وسد الأمر إلى غير أهله فانتظر الساعة. If the matter is been given, entrusted to the ones that does not befit it, then wait for the hour. So the Prophet ﷺ explained what it is. When a person will take a position that it does not fit him, it is not for him, right? Whether it's a person of knowledge, leaders, whatever there is, right? And this is something that is also very obvious. So this is one of the signs of the hour, that those who do not fit to be in whatever position that they are in, this is one of the signs of the hour. Also the Prophet ﷺ, which is one of the signs that is happening and it's happening, he said alayhi salatu wassalam in this hadith in Imam Ahmad and others, سَيَأْتِي عَلَى النَّاسِ سَنَوَاتْ خَدَّعَاتٍ. Years will come unto the people, خَدَّعَاتٍ meaning deceiving years, years of deception. يُصَدَّقُ فِيهَا الْكَاذِبُ, and this is the real calamity here. The liar will be trusted and people would say that he is truthful. وَيُكَذَّبُ فِيهَا الصَّادِقُ, and the صادق, the truthful one, will be said that he's a liar. وَيُؤْتَمَنُ فِيهَا الْخَائِنُ, and the betrayal one will be trusted. And وَيُخَوَّنُ فِيهَا الْأَمِينُ, and the Amin, the trustworthy, will be said that he's a betrayer, that he's not a trust person. وَيَنْتِقُ فِيهَا الرُّوَيْبِضَةُ, and the Ruwaybida will speak out at this time, these years of deception. People will be deceived. So they asked the Prophet ﷺ, what is al-Ruwaybida? What is the meaning of it? The Prophet ﷺ said, الرجل التافه يتكلم في أمر العام. Right? We have this in... I don't talk about it. الرجل التافه. What's التافه means?
Silly.
Silly? What's a worse word?
Useless.
The useless person, the nobody, right, will talk about the affairs of the ummah. Right? The person that nobody whatsoever. It's not as a way of discrimination among people. No, someone does not have, he is not the one to talk about the ummah, right? And the affairs of what is benefiting for the people or not. He will be the one that speaks. Like we find in the Muslim world, the actresses and the actors, and right, 100 years ago from now or more, they used to be ashamed to walk in the streets. They call them al-mushakhasati, because they're liars, basically imitating, making fun of themselves, like a crowns and things like this. So you find them now, they're ones that are talking about the affairs of the ummah and even talking about deen. And you should not, of course, but if you follow these things that is happening back home in some countries, you will find these people are the ones in charge of speaking and talking about deen. And I would teach, so like one of them said, I would teach these people the religion, the people of knowledge and everything, because she knows the religion, and actors and things like this. So this is what the Prophet ﷺ said. This is the time where people will be deceived, and this is definitely a calamity. Also the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the authentic hadith, لا تقوم الساعة, and we talked about that before this hadith, we mentioned before, till knowledge is taken away and so on. Also, تقارب الزمان, which we talked about it, that the time will be very shrunk, whether it's no blessings in the time or physically. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا تقوم الساعة حتى تقارب الزمان, till the time is shrunk and very close to one another. فتكون السنة كالشهر, the 1 year becomes like 1 month. والشهر كالجمعة, and the month is like 1 week. And وتكون الجمعة كاليوم, and the week is like a day. ويكون اليوم كالساعة, and the day will become like an hour. وتكون الساعة كالظلمة بالنار, and the hour will be the time where you lit a fire. Very short, right? Also the Prophet ﷺ said in Sahih Muslim, which didn't happen, this is one of the signs that didn't happen yet. He said عليه الصلاة والسلام, لا تقوم الساعة حتى يكثر المال ويفيض. This has happened, that the hour would not be established till the money become in abundance. حتى يخرج الرجل بزكاة ماله فلا يجد أحدا يقبلها منه. Man will go out with the zakat, doesn't find people to take it from him. This, it happened, and it's happening. But then the one that didn't happen, وحتى تعود أرض العرب مروجا وأنهارا, right? Until the land of the Arab becomes green and rivers and things like this. So this is something the Prophet ﷺ said it will happen. Some people, they get excited when there was snow back in the Arab world. Now they said, it's getting closer. It will be green and rivers and everything. So Allah knows best. But this didn't happen. Also one of the hadith that didn't happen, the signs that didn't happen. And some people, they interpret it, but it's a wrong interpretation, because it's as the Prophet ﷺ said. He said, alayhi salatu wassalam, and this is in Bukhari Muslim, يوشك الفرات أن يحسر عن كنز من ذهب فمن حضره فلا يأخذ منه شيئا. Close, very close, الفرات, the Euphrates, the river Euphrates in Iraq, and يحسر, meaning it will, there's a word for it. يحسر, that means get
diverted.
Is it diverted?
Yeah, because
When, you know when the water precedes, is it precedes? Precedes? Recedes, yeah, when the water recedes. So the river Euphrates will recede on a treasure of gold. Right? It's not like people will be digging in it, no, it will deplete. Not that it's going to be empty, right? It's like when the wave goes and then it come back, right? Recede. So the river will recede on a treasure of gold. The Prophet ﷺ, this is an action here. فَمَنْ حَضَرَهُ فَلَا يَأْخُذْ مِنْهُ شَيْئًا. Whoever witnessed it, he is not to take anything from it. Another narration, people would fight over this, as the Hadith says, يُوشِكُ الْفُرَاتَ أَنْ يَحْسِرَ عَنْ جَبَلٍ مِّنْ ذَهَبٍ. Very close, Euphrates will recede on a kenz or a treasure of gold. فَإِذَا سَمِعَ بِهِ النَّاسُ سَارُوا إِلَيْهِ. When people hear about it, they all go there to get some of this treasure. فَيَقُلْ مَنْ عِنْدَهُ. People would say to each other, if I leave these to the people, they would take all of it, right? We should go take a share of it. فَيَقْتَتِلُونَ عَلَيْهِ. They would fight with each other over it. فَيُقْتَلْ مِنْ كُلِّ مِئَةٍ 99. Out of 100 killing each other, 99 will be killed out of 100 because of this treasure of gold that will be exposed in the river of the Euphrates. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, if you heard of it, don't go there. Don't participate in this, leave it. Right? So whoever get to have this knowledge, which is a great favor, if a person get to know this knowledge from the Prophet ﷺ and that happened in his lifetime, he would not come close to this. And how many people will die as a result of this ignorance. But if people say it's the oil and this and that, this is nonsense. Right? This is, as the Prophet ﷺ, dhahab, gold, treasure of gold, as the Prophet ﷺ said. Because again, people sometimes they interpret things according to their own desires. When it's 10 till, actually, 2 minutes? 3 minutes. Okay, we'll take one hadith, which we said the like of it. The hadith when a time would come when a man would wish, he would come by the graveyard and he would say, "Latani makana," I wish I was in his place, because of the fitan. And this is this narration what the Prophet ﷺ said, وَلَيْسَ بِهِ إِلَّا الْبَلَاء. It is nothing but the extreme test and calamities that befalls a person that he would wish to die rather than to live. Is it permissible for a person to wish to die? The Prophet ﷺ was asked this question, and the answer was no, because you never know what is good for you. Right? Life in itself is a test. And if a person is suffering so a great deal in this life, this can elevate his levels if he's patient, and a way to expiate his sins. And the punishment in the hereafter and in the grave, nothing compared to this silliness of this life. It's very simple compared to what's in the hereafter. So for a person to wish to die, no. But the Prophet ﷺ taught the one that إن كان لا محالة, if you have to say something, say اللهم أحيني ما علمت الحياة خيرا لي وأمتني وتوفني ما علمت الوفاة خيرا لي. Oh Allah, make me live as long as you know that life is good for me, and cause me to die if you know that death is better for me. This is, if a person has to say something, then this is to be said, because sometimes the bala is too much for a person. That can be a reason for him to be in a fitna. It can take him away from being patient and so on. So making such a dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take the life of the person if life is not good for him or good for him, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. The last hadith, inshallah ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يأتين عليكم أمراء. Umara, leaders, will come to you. يقربون شرار الناس. They will make closer to them the worst of the people. ويؤخرون الصلاة عن مواقيتها. And they delay the salah from its time. فمن أدرك ذلك منكم, and this hadith is authentic hadith, right? And like another implication to it. So these leaders will come, they would give or make closer to them who? The evil of the people, and they would delay the salah. فمن أدرك ذلك منكم, whoever lives to witness this, فلا يكونن عريفا. Man al-Arif. The one in charge of the people. The one in charge of a tribe, or the charge of, like their leader basically. Do not be someone like that. Wala shurtiyan. Do not be a police officer. Wala jabiyan. And do not be someone that would collect the money from people. Wala khazinan. And someone that would be works on for the inventory of these leaders. Keeping as a keeper of what they have, wealth, or whatever there is. That means stay away from them. Do not be close to them. It doesn't mean to overthrow them or anything like that. No, you obey in matters of goodness. You don't obey in matters of sins, but you don't become close to them. And you don't work for them if they are in such a way. We'll stop inshallah at this time.